Modern video games are increasingly chasing photorealism with advanced tools capable of rendering characters and environments that look ever more lifelike. This push toward hyper-realistic graphics brings with it a range of unintended consequences across economic, creative, and ethical dimensions. In this video, we'll examine each of these dimensions, exploring how hyper-realistic graphics can also negatively impact both game development and players. Impact on players. When development teams devote most of their resources solely to rendering high-fidelity graphics, gameplay design and innovation can suffer. Developers often pour their efforts into hyper-realistic textures and lighting at the expense of engaging narrative design and strong character development.
Hiding in these woods.
A 2018 experiment at the University of York found that players actually form stronger emotional connections with stylized, appealing characters compared to ultra-realistic ones. In other words, pushing graphics further does not necessarily deepen player engagement. It can even diminish emotional impact if the narrative or gameplay is shallow. Many modern games prioritize cinematic visuals, which can sometimes make players feel like passive spectators. This approach can backfire. On the other hand, games that emphasize innovation, even with simpler graphics, often feel more compelling. For example, the popular indie title Hades uses bold visual styling while introducing fresh roguelike storytelling, earning praise for design that transcends realism. Thus, the industry's obsession with photorealism risks relegating gameplay to a secondary priority, potentially producing experiences that impress visually but feel artistically and narratively hollow. Impact on genre diversity. Hyper-realistic graphics tend to favor genres that directly benefit from realism, like FPS, simulators, racing, or sports games. This bias can distort the balance of genres in the market. For instance, sports or racing developers invest heavily in motion-captured athletes and photorealistic cars to meet consumer expectations. Meanwhile, genres that traditionally rely on stylized or abstract presentation, such as puzzle games, fantasy RPGs, or cartoon platformers, may receive less attention or budget, as their art direction is seen as nice to have rather than a selling point. Impact on creativity. When photorealism becomes the goal, developers often lean toward a narrow aesthetic to ensure their games look real. In contrast, games that embrace unique art styles instead of realism can foster innovation and identity, giving developers more creative freedom. Titles like Journey, Hollow Knight, and Cuphead demonstrate how strong artistic direction can become a game's defining feature. Escalating development schedules and budgets. Photorealistic graphics demand massive teams and skyrocketing budgets. For example, Grand Theft Auto V had a budget of around $265 million, but comparable AAA projects today often exceed $500 million. Meeting modern visual standards requires detailed 3D modeling, motion capture, and advanced shaders, often at the cost of time and money. As budgets and timelines balloon, profits tend to shrink. Once a game already looks realistic, spending more to add extra detail yields diminishing returns. Reports indicate that the pursuit of ultra-realistic graphics has led to shrinking profits and widespread layoffs across the industry. Even million-selling successes can strain studios. Spider-Man 2 from Sony sold over 11 million units, but reportedly cost $300 million to make. Shortly after release, Sony laid off 900 staff across its studios. Similarly, Warner Bros. Discovery lost $200 million on Suicide Squad: Kill the Justice League, despite its realistic visuals. These cases illustrate how ambitious visual goals can drive costs sky high and trigger layoffs, even when games initially sell well. Publishers avoiding risk and decline of experimental projects. As costs rise, publishers grow increasingly risk-averse. With $500 million at stake, companies shy away from new or experimental ideas, preferring sequels and proven formulas. Allocating huge portions of the budget to realistic graphics leaves fewer resources for experimental gameplay, deep narratives, or unique art direction, ultimately stifling innovation. Industry reporters note that in today's market, fewer new IPs are greenlit while sequels dominate, as publishers fear that experimental games with equally high budgets may fail to recoup costs. In short, the financial gamble of photorealism narrows creative risk-taking across the industry.
I know what you are.
Hardware cost barriers for consumers. Hyper-realistic games raise the hardware bar for players. Realistic graphics demand top-tier GPUs, CPUs, and SSDs. For example, building a system capable of running modern games at full performance often requires a graphics card costing $1,000 to $2,000, well beyond many players' budgets. This cost barrier can shrink the potential market for certain games. If a title relies heavily on ultra-realistic visuals, developers may have to drop support for lower-end PCs or older consoles, reducing the audience and hurting overall sales. By contrast, games with stylized or lower fidelity graphics often run smoothly across a wide range of hardware. Titles like Minecraft, Fortnite, and Roblox prove that simpler aesthetics can still attract millions of players across platforms. In short, while hyper-realistic graphics raise visual standards, they risk alienating consumers and shrinking market share. While realistic graphics can be breathtaking, they also carry hidden costs in time, money, and creative freedom. That said, not all realistic games are inherently bad or harmful. Some titles, like God of War and The Last of Us, have become iconic not only for their visuals, but also for their compelling stories and strong characters. Ultimately, what matters most in a game is not whether its graphics are realistic or not, but whether it delivers an emotional impact that resonates with players. If you enjoyed content like this, hit like, subscribe, and ring the bell so you never miss our next deep dive.